killing bush. I've got him at gunpoint.
They're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for camp.
God!
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
And we have this is kind of an interesting way that this came about this week, Chuck. We had a listener who heard someone else's episode and it reminded him of some of his stories and
Right.
made this listener say, I've got something to share too.
Yeah, he said, hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
I'm going to one up him. So
I love it.
no pressure.
Who do we have
there,
this?
Nick.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
His name's Nick. He's a corrections officer out of Oregon. And he's got some crazy, interesting stories that he just briefed us on. And, he's been in it for 8 years with 2 different agencies. He's got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I mean,
a
little bit more than the last guy we had on. So maybe that's why he's like, he's got nothing
been in
on
it more.
Yeah.
Timing great, man. How are you, Nick? Welcome to
I'm
the
good.
show.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Oh, we're good. We're both just enjoying every freaking day that we're trying to keep our heads above water.
Pretty much on the right side of the dirt.
Exactly. So you'd been in this job. Are you still in it, obviously?
Mm-hmm.
And you said Oregon. Are you Eastern or Western Oregon?
Northern Oregon.
Oh, so you're like on the Washington border.
Yeah, I'm in what they call the Portland metropolitan area.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
yeah. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Not
So has it
Portland.
gotten rougher?
No, the greater Portland metro area.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I started out. I was born and raised in Southern Oregon in a smaller town. I ended up. I had a buddy that he'd started through the reserve program, got hired on for the sheriff's office. He started in jail, went to the road, and then one day I asked him if I could go on a ride along with him, and we spent the night going code 3 to calls, pursuit, took a guy at gunpoint, and I was like, I think I like this. So I joined the reserve program 2012, did some time in the reserves, got hired. I did a minute over on the coast for a smaller agency, and patrol wasn't. It was a kind of a bad situation. We won't go into specifics, but I ended up coming back and getting a job in the jail, and I had 8 years, been doing it and loving every minute of it.
So you started out and patrol was just not a good situation for you. So you decided to come inside and work in corrections, and you've been doing that for 8 years in a totally different area than when you were an area where you were working patrol, right? So you've never run into anybody in corrections that you ran into working patrol.
No, because I started over on the coast, Bandon, Oregon, and population like 3,000 people. And then when that didn't work out, I came back down south, and I worked down there for about 4.5 years till I met my now wife. And when we started talking about who was going to move where, I said, "Don't even worry, I'll come up there." So I've been up here for close to 4 years, and it's just been a great experience going to a larger agency.
Now, are you in a state facility?
No, I'm part of a sheriff's office.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I just asked because a lot of times what you end up dealing with can be very dependent on, for example, if you're in a prison, you're not going to be dealing with people going to and from court as much as you will be dealing with people that are, but in a jail, you're not necessarily dealing with people that are on death row, even though those two things can happen. They're not as common in one another. Right.
I guess my question is, so you worked on an agency before and as on patrol, and that was your 2 agencies. Was one was patrol and the other one was detention, right?
No,
I guess detention at both.
Yeah, patrol was I didn't count that as my 2 agencies. So I did patrol for a hot minute, and then worked for an agency down in Southern Oregon, and then I lateraled up to an agency up in Northern Oregon.
Got it.
Oh, okay. And then you've been at your current spot at the sheriff's office up there for 8 years.
I've been here for almost 4. All in all, between the 2 places, I've been doing it for over 8 years.
Okay, so are you a jail a jail deputy up there, or
Yeah,
how does that work?
we're kind of unique as to like some states, like Texas. You're not a sworn officer. Like I can arrest people. If someone comes in, I can be served on the warrant as the arresting officer, things like that. We handle transports to and from court to the hub, take people to prison, pick them up from prison to come back for like appeals and stuff like that. So the whole gambit.
Yeah. So you guys are now. When you guys leave the facility, are you armed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of how. So it sounds like a lot like our sheriff's department when the county where I work, they had correctional officers that were not patrol deputies, and when they were inside the facility, they were armed with correctional officer gear. But when they left the facility, if they were transporting to court, working at court, anywhere doing anything outside the facility, they were full armed, the whole kit.
Yeah.
So you're a sworn
Basically, I mean,
deputy.
yes, I'm a sworn deputy, and
Okay.
basically, I dump my pistol, my mags in a gun locker on my way in. But other than that, I wear my vest, taser, OC, everything that a patrol deputy would have.
Yeah.
Now, I got one other question for you.
Mhm.
When you're out in town, like you're off shift, do you have like in California, it'd be like 830, like 0.2 PC, where you have a CCW outside of work, you have powers to arrest, you can carry your gun. But some other is like smaller places, like my buddy, he went into a different agency. He left a major agency, went to a smaller agency, and they don't have those powers, even in California. But he's on the job. He's basically sworn, and because he works for the federal government, but he's basically sworn. He can arrest whoever, he can take him to jail. Out of work, he doesn't have a CCW or anything like that. Up there, because you're a sworn deputy, does that carry over outside of work where you could carry concealed whenever you want?
Yep.
Right, I think I know what you're talking about.
Every day. Yeah. Every day I carry concealed under the color law and all that kind of stuff. So
hell yeah.
So
I like your position.
Yeah, like basically
all the best
you have
perks.
all the perks of being a cop, but you can stay in the jail, which LA County Sheriff has a similar thing. I know with deputies that it used to be you had to go out on patrol.
Yep, not anymore.
Not anymore. If you like working the jail, you can be a sworn deputy, never go to patrol school, never go out on the street.
No, I think that you have to go to patrol, but you have to serve your one time in patrol, because it was maybe that was in the middle of that was that hybrid, because he was like, you have to, and if you don't, you can go back.
Now you don't even have to go out.
You don't even have to leave. Yeah.
So you're sworn. I knew what you were talking about, Chuck. That there are some positions where you are only sworn while on duty in your official capacity, and then when you leave work, you are no longer sworn.
USCPD's that way.
You become I believe in California, at least, all university police departments are only sworn while on duty.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know USCPD is, but that was something that they worked out with their charter. I think Northridge, though, like places like Northridge, all the Cal States, I think they're all like sworn 100% outside.
Yeah. So I don't know what other states have, but strange. We just know from our state there was under the peace officer section, there's all these subsections for like different kinds of peace officers you can be. And they made some specific ones. Like there's one agency, I won't say it, but they have their own section just for their peace officer status. And then you have like railroad police departments, and you have like all these. Anyway, that's pretty crazy. So you get all the perks of being a deputy on the street, but you can just stay in the jail.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to apply for a totally different job if you wanted to go out to the street?
No. So the way my agency does it is, even if you come in and apply, straight off the street and you want to get into law enforcement, they'll offer you either the jail spot or a road spot. And our pre-academy that we do before you go to the state academy, it's all basically, we do all the same things together: firearms, DTs, all that kind of stuff. They branch off and do for a couple days, they'll do some stuff with their MDTs and some EVOC stuff. But basically, we do a lot of the same stuff. Our in-service trainings are monthly or bi-monthly trainings. We all do it all together. So, I mean, even though both sides of the houses are their own thing, we do a lot of the same stuff together.
Man, that is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So do you enjoy working on the in the correction side, and you have no intentions of going out to patrol?
No, I get that a lot. I love controlled chaos. I know who everybody is. I know what they're about. I know what they have means to get, and it makes my job easier. Plus, at the end of the day, I punch out, and I know there's people to take care of everything, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there is some freedom in that, especially, and I'm sure that the paperwork and the court appearances are a lot less intense. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to file paperwork when some shit happens, but
Yeah.
not the same as like writing a crime report or take like you don't have to take bullshit theft reports from
But even
dumbasses who get their iPods stolen out of their freaking car because they left their car unlocked and their windows down.
No, I mean, we can still, on minor things, on like violation of, if you have like a violation of restraining order, you contact someone from jail. We can do, minor reports like that. But we actually have a guy that his special title is he's the investigator for the jail. So he's up with detectives. He investigates PREA stuff. He, if we have like a major deputy assault or, like an aggravated assault or something like that, where someone gets spit on, he can come down and take the report. So, I mean, we have the ability to pick up minor reports, but it's nothing I have to worry about.
Right, exactly. And then
that makes sense.
You don't, that means because you're not filing arrest reports as much, you're not getting as many court dates, and nobody's getting on your ass to write tickets. You don't have to go to traffic court. I'm digging this job you have, Nick. I'm digging it. I'm just
Also,
saying, I'm digging it.
Other states and other agencies are so much better than California on writing reports. California is always CYA on the reports, and each agency can be different and stricter and harder, and some are really easy. But up in like where you're at in Idaho, and then I'm assuming up in like Oregon, they're a lot more streamlined. I mean, heck, he just said that if someone calls into the jail for a restraining order violation, the jailers or the jail deputies can take that over the phone. Where as patrol in like other states, you would get stuck with that paper.
Talk to the victim. Dude, I'm trying to get my buddy in here who left California and he works in Washington, and I want him to come on and talk about some of the bananas crap they have to deal with, like the fact that if you stop a car and you see a gun in plain view, you have to write a search warrant. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you, bro. Like you have to freeze the car and
stupid.
Oh yeah, dude, you have to write warrants for everything in Washington. I can't wait to have him on and talk about this stuff. It's bananas. But we're here to talk to Nick. So Nick, you emailed us after hearing, and we won't say who, but you heard a previous episode and you were like, those stories are cool, but hold my beer. So we're gonna hold your beer and let you take over, man. What are some of your favorite? I've gotten a couple of teases on stuff you're going to talk about, so I can't wait to hear them, man. What are your stories?
Well, I mean, I've got a ton of them. I got one of them that was kind of eye-opening for me. So I lived in a small town. I was I was the jail liaison for like a mental health court, and I would assist, like they would do fairs for guys that were participating in drug court, mental health court. And, I'd do the dunk tank, and I was respected by a lot of the guys. And so everybody knew me. Everybody knew what I drove and everything like that, but I had good rapport with people. I treat everybody decent. But one day
what you drove.
Oh, because when you pull through to go to the Sally Port, you drive through our parking lot. And so, coming and going, you see a squad car roll through and they got a custody in the back, and I'm hopping in my pickup. Awesome. They knew where I was. So
great. That's fun.
Yeah. So one day I was on day shift as a supervisor, and I get done working a regular day, and I go to the gym, spend a couple hours at the gym, and come home and doing my thing and, making dinner, and I hop in the shower for a little bit, and I get out of the shower and I get a phone call on my work phone. So I answer the phone, and it's one of the jail deputies, and they say, "Hey, I've got one of the city sergeants wants to get your cell phone number. He wants to call you. Can I give it to him?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So he calls me and he's like, "Hey, so I just want to let you know, there was someone outside your house kind of making a big deal. We got him in custody. We're going to be taking him to jail." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about." And he's like, "Well, I guess he was kind of out making a scene in front of your house, and your neighbors called it in. So we came and picked him up because they had a substation that was literally like 200 yards from my house."
So that's not a call you want to get, for the record.
No. So
Yeah.
I threw myself together. I hopped in my truck. I lived a mile and a half from the jail. So I hauled ass down there.
It's
And
close.
yeah, it was. So I come walking in through the staff doors and I go into the booking area about the time they bring this guy in. And this guy, he's high on meth and everything. And, I told him, I looked him square in the eyes and told him, if you ever come near my house, if I ever see you in my neighborhood again, I will fucking shoot you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
what had happened was, as soon as I went outside, my neighbors are like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, this guy's outside of your house. And he was saying, he was yelling you by name and he was saying, hey, come out and handle this like a man. Come be a man and come handle this. And so we came outside and we confronted him and he wanted to fight us. So we called the cops and they came and picked him up. So what I didn't hear while I was in the shower was him beating on my door and calling me out by name to come outside and to fight him. So what hit me like a ton of bricks I have kids with my ex-wife and I thought about, well, what if my kids would have been home or what if I would have heard him and I would have answered the door? I always,
Or if your kids would have answered the door.
exactly. And that's what really got me pissed off is this guy showed up at my house and was beating on my door. And at first I was kind of like, well, holy shit, I wish I would have heard it, but then I'm like, well, if I would have heard it and I would have confronted him, Lord only knows what would have happened. I could end up shooting this guy on my front doorstep.
Or you get shot.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a very eye-opening experience. So that one took me a while to get over because
so what was his deal? What was his damage?
He just high on meth.
That's it.
That's it. Just high on
Knew
meth.
where you lived, high on meth. Like no like grudge over an arrest or like
no. He was just one of our standard
frequent flyers.
Freakers. Yeah, frequent flyer. He'd come in all the time. And he just decided one day he was going to show up at my house and evidently wanted to handle something. But
man,
yeah.
I just think of it now. If that was my house,
I'd
go into my garage, grab my PR-24, walk around the side of the house because I have a Nest camera, and just watch him, and then just come up behind him and go hi, and then like get off my porch. And if you don't get off my porch, I'm going to tune you up with this fucking PR-24. And if you take one step towards me, I'm going to hit you with this fucking PR-24. And if you pull a weapon, I'm going to shoot you with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's like amazing, but scary at the same time. But
yeah. So no, like I said, that one took me a while to shake because I never had anybody, show up to my house or, really confront me like that. So
when I worked undercover, I took multiple routes home.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that was really, and I carry that over to this day where occasionally I'll do a little counter surveillance driving just because I'm paranoid, but I carried that over when I went back to patrol. And part of that was like, once you learn and once you realize that these assholes will follow you home. Like look at poor, if you don't know the name, Stacy Lim was a LAPD copper who got off shift and drove home, and a bunch of gangbanging assholes followed her home and center punched her with a 357 Magnum.
Well, she fought back too.
And she fought back. She killed them. She killed the one who shot her and then went to the hospital. And after a double, like 10 pints of blood or whatever, she had basically twice the amount of blood in her body put back again. Oh, wow. And she died 3 times on the operating table, but she lived. And, that's because some assholes followed her home.
Yeah. Well, and I when I first started, when I was new, I was heavy-handed, and whatever the rules were, I enforced them, and I was a bit of an asshole. But as time went on, I learned to treat everybody with respect, and kind of had a professional relationship with all the guys that were in custody, and I never did anything that was unwarranted. I was never a blatant dick for no reason. So I don't think I have to really worry about a whole lot of stuff like that other than the occasional crazy meth head.
Right. But it's funny is when a lot of people, when they're younger, like in their careers, like not necessarily, it does happen to people who get into their careers at a young age, but just early on in your careers, you're still trying to figure it out. And a lot of times I think as you gain more street experience, you gain more experience working with people, you tend to learn like what is important and what isn't, and how to talk to people, and how to get them to go along. Your verbal judo gets better, and the fact that you look at something and go, I really don't give a shit about that. The fucking paperwork. Nope, don't give a shit. Knock it off. Knock it off, but also shut the fuck up.
It's a humbling experience when you're young on the job and you're like, man, I got like a year and a half, 2 years on the job. Like, I'm the shit, right? And you start to deal with someone and you go to 0 to 100 real quick, and they're like, they start calling you a boot, and you're like, what the fuck? You're like, and you get more angry and more angry and more angry, and then your more senior partner has to come by and go, hey, bro, I got it. And they talk the dude down, they get him out. Like, I had a situation like that in a 7-Eleven, and this fucking tweaker comes in, gangster tweaker, and guy, the clerk at the 7-Eleven's like, hey, I want this guy out of here. And I was like, all right, I got you. My partner, who had like, I don't know, 4 years on the job, I had 2. And in 4 years, you learn a lot more than you do at 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, hey, man, get out now. He doesn't want you in here. Get out. He has the right to refuse service. Get out. And it was just like 0 to 100 real quick. And the guy was like, fuck you. And I was like, no, fuck you. Get out, dude.
Yeah, no, fuck you.
And he was like, you're a boot. And I was like, what? I was like, no, I got like 10 years on the job. Get out of my store. And my partner comes on, and this dude is, oh man, he's a good guy, but man, he wasn't much better than me, but he came in, he talked to the guy. He was like, all right, you got to go. And if you don't, we will arrest you for trespassing. And the guy doesn't want you in here. He's like, all right, fine. And I got called a boot. And I was like,
that's a huge
that was
thing.
super humbling.
Is when you start and you're thinking, well, I have to enforce rules, whether it's on the road or in the jail, especially in the jail. We have a lot of kids that are in there. I call them kids just because they're new, but they do that thing where they're trying to, control the situation, and they come in a little hot and heavy. And then once they get made to look bad, then it's embarrassing, and they don't know how to come back from that.
Exactly.
I don't waste my time on stupid paper. I always tell people, if I got to write paper, it's going to be miserable for you. So, I have the ability to go in anybody's cell at any time, shake their stuff down and look for things that they shouldn't have. And I don't care about the little things, as long as they make my job easier and my pod runs well. Not that big of a deal. I'm not going to bust their ass over some cookies that they saved from dinner that they're not supposed to have.
Well, and sometimes the rules are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like
even cookies.
Like,
sounds like the Marine Corps boot camp.
Well, that's a sanitation thing.
Save peanut butter in your fucking underwear.
I get it, but like,
you could eat it. Ew.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
I said it's a lot like the Marine Corps. It sounds like the Marine Corps, Marine Corps boot camp. We would put peanut butter in skivvies.
Your underwear.
Oh, dude, you couldn't have it in your pockets. You get caught. So you put it in like your skivvies, or you try to keep it in your boot or something. And then later you'd pull it out and eat it in the middle of the night.
Hold on.
You sound like a tweaker.
Fucking peanut butter, like a peanut butter like tube.
Yes, that's what I wanted to clarify. You're not talking about raw
smearing
unpackaged peanut butter.
No,
you're talking about a package of peanut butter. I just wanted to clarify, because the way
like
theater of the mind, you just start to. I don't want to eat anything in my underwear that looked like peanut butter. For the record,
it's similarities between like boot camp, like a strict boot camp, and like prison.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And they're uncanny sometimes. It's crazy.
It is. Well, yeah. So what? That's crazy. First of all, having somebody follow you home, and I'm with Chuck. Yeah. Like that dude is probably only alive because you weren't home when he decided to,
or didn't hear it, because I think he
didn't hear it.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, you weren't engaged in confronting him. This damn, like, I always tell people that my front door is locked for their protection, not for mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another one is when I was still down there at my other agency, we typically had 4 deputies in the whole facility. That one was an indirect supervision. So, we'd walk through every hour and check on everybody and that kind of stuff. So we had 2 guys working in the back in the housing area. And then they call it a day station. It's kind of like you can see into the dorms, and it's just a little bit elevated, and there's computers there. And I was working up front in the booking area. and we get this guy in. He's a little high on meth, not bad. He's a big
Just a
Samoan
little.
dude. Yeah. So I get him fingerprinted and I send him back to lodge him. And I hear a backup call to go back and assist in housing. So I go running back there and I don't see anybody. So I'm kind of confused as I'm running. I hit control and ask where they're at. About that time, I see one of the deputies pop their head up. Well, what had happened is this 6'2" Samoan decided that he wanted to come up to the deputy station and try to take one of the tasers from the deputies.
Oh,
So two 6', 200-pound guys are fighting him on the ground at the deputy station. So I come running back there and, I try to find space to get work in. So, I tase him, drive some follow up, nothing. One guy's hammer fisting him in the face. The other guy's doing everything he can to hold on to his taser. So, taser didn't do anything. So I start, doing knee strikes. So I'm kneeing him as hard as I can with everything I got in the ribs.
as well you should.
And it's not phasing him. So then the other deputy that's working up in booking, they come running back and they do the same thing. They staple him in one leg and drive stun to the other leg. And he won't give it up. He won't let go of the taser, won't stop fighting. And we're fighting
in
this
the balls with the taser.
Yeah,
will drop it.
Well, there was a moment when I literally, I sat up and I started looking around. I'm like, what do I have that I can hit this guy with?
Right.
And if I would have had a fire extinguisher, I would hit him in the head with it.
Sure.
So we fought this guy. It ended up being 5 minutes of us fighting this guy before our control had called dispatch. And a couple of our county patrol guys ended up having to come in and help us actually get this guy in cuffs and dealt with. So for 5 minutes, 4 of us fought this guy. And at one point, he was kind of like wiggling back, and I saw the back of his head, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to knee him in the back of the head. Maybe I can stun him enough to where we can actually get cuffs on him. And I kneed him as hard as I could in the back of the head, and it didn't phase him.
Whoa.
Oh,
PCP?
Yeah.
Or meth?
No, just meth. Small one, just really, really hard head. Learn the hard way.
I will say there's some
Jeez.
level of genetic muscle and bone density that people don't necessarily understand. Like not all races are created physically equally sometimes,
No.
like when
And
you're talking about
Samoans,
oh dude,
they have to be able to take horses down
yeah,
in Samoa.
yeah, like it's you can, who knows, maybe if you had Samoans that spent hundreds of years living in a very easy climate where they didn't have such physically demanding, maybe they would start to lose some of that muscle mass and bone density, and maybe it has been built up over time just because of the difficulties or the things that culturally they do with but dude, it's like pit bulls, right? Like you talk about pit bulls and you talk about how that dog just has a thicker skull than a lot of other dogs, right? Well, the same thing like with people, it's just like eye color and just like hair color. Like there are other levels of your genetic makeup that change. And damn, like I totally understand what you're saying. You could, some people, you hit them. I think didn't Elliot tell a story about shooting a dude? He was a big old dude and he shot him 3 or 4 times in the chest, and his musculature was so dense the bullets didn't actually penetrate his chest cavity.
Yeah.
They just lodged in his pectoral muscle.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
Wow, and it's crazy. Like, yeah, and 23andMe, like if you do 23andMe and you pay for like the extra shit, it'll tell you if you like what your genetic makeup is when it comes to like muscles and muscularity and shit like that. And like mine, for instance, is that of a power athlete. So it'll tell you if you're that of a power athlete and you have the genetic codes for that and like the markers for it, or that of like an endurance type of athlete where the muscles won't fatigue, and those generally are lankier, tall, skinnier people. And then you have more stockier built people who are more of the explosive, fast twitch muscles that,
my 23andMe told me I have the musculature of a lazy athlete.
No shit.
Anyway, so Nick, you need this guy in the back of the head. How did you end up like what was the resolve? What happened to him?
So we like patrol got there. We got him handcuffed, got him we put him in our seg unit and got
One
him in a
pair
cell
or more than one pair of cuffs?
No, just one. Well, we made him fit.
Oh,
Yeah. So we got cuffs slammed on him. We got him to his new house and took him off through the door. And then about a week later, that guy, he got let out for his out time. So he came out of his cell in our seg unit, which was basically, it was a long hall with, 6 cells on one side, 7 cells on the other side. And, there's a shower in there. Well, he decided he wasn't going to go back in. So go down there, start dealing with it. Someone had tried pepper spraying him through the door because there was a slider to go into that cell block. They sprayed him through the door, didn't do anything. So he's just pacing back and forth in this long hallway. And so I go and I grab a 40 and I come back. Patrol shows up because, we have history
like
with
where
this
this
cat.
is going.
Yeah. So, we start yelling at him to step in, and he just stands in the middle of the walk and he just throws his arms out and throws out a big war cry. So I gave him the admonishments I needed to give, and I ended up shooting with a 40 just below the knee. And, his leg kind of flies back and
That'll stun him real good.
Yeah. Well, you would think at this point he would go back in his cell. Well, he decided that he was going to hide behind his open door and go in the cell. So we're kind of there in a little bit of a standoff. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We get a shield, a couple tasers, and where we're going to go in and go from there. Well, he decides he actually wants to go in the cell. So he goes in the cell, and I'm yelling through the handcuff port of the slider for him to shut his door, and he wouldn't shut his door. So I had a multi-shot launcher. I rack it again and tell everyone to stack up on me. And I started going down the hall. And as I'm going through, I tell him, "You come out of your cell again, I'm going to shoot you." And come around and get to his door. And I kind of, slice pie around the door, and he's just sitting on his bunk, rubbing his leg. So shut the door, and that was that. So needless to say, he didn't get to come out of his cell for quite a while after that.
Yeah, he had to have some quiet time.
Yeah. He
sometimes those 40s, they don't work.
Really?
Well, this worked. I mean, you could tell he didn't like it. So like I said, he went and hid behind the door.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we nailed someone in the chest with it, and we just watched him curl, eat it, and then stand back up, and we're like, oh shit, rack it again. 40 breaks. Another officer with a 40, hey, get it, and hit him again. And he tried to catch it with his fucking hands. Yeah, exploded his fucking thumb.
I mean, yeah, that'll do that.
And then he was done. He was like, but he was only done because he saw blood.
It's weird how that happens sometimes when people are like, oh, I got hurt, I should stop. Like they don't feel it. It's like they did. It's like when the coyote doesn't realize that he's run off the edge of the cliff until he looks down and sees there's no like ground beneath him.
Right. Meth is one hell of a drug, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So I know you told us you had a couple more, so I don't want to keep you from, getting some of these out before we run out of time. So.
Okay. So I got some funny things that I've found doing strip searches. So we had a guy come in one time, and the arresting officer says, "Hey," he says he's got some money down the back of his pants. So, okay. We go through the pat down and everything, and he can't post bail. So we take him back to shower to dress him in. So I tell him, all right, go ahead and start taking off all your clothes. He's taking off his clothes, and I'm waiting for this money to show up. And he gets down to his underwear, and I'm like, okay, it's got to be there. And he takes off his underwear, and we're standing there. He's naked, and I don't see any money. So I asked him, I said, so where's this money at? He's like, oh, hold on. And he reaches back, and he starts digging in his butthole. And I ask him, what are you doing? He's like, hold on a minute. I'm like, what the hell? So he digs for a little bit, and he reaches out, and he holds his hand out, and I've got a glove. So I reach out, and he drops something in my hand, and I look down, and it's a rock. And I'm like, what's this? He's like, it's a rock. I'm like, yeah, I know, but where's the money? He's like, well, hold on. And he starts going back to digging. He digs for a little bit and he comes back out and he lays $300 bills that are rolled up real tight, wrapped in cellophane. He sets that in my hand. So I'm looking at this rock and this $300 in my hand. And I ask him, I'm like, why was there a rock in your ass with your money? And he tells me, he's like, well, I put my money in there to keep it safe because I don't really trust the people that I'm around. So I put the rock in afterwards. So if they try to find it, they just find the rock. And it was just like, what do you say to that?
I mean, there's nothing you can say to that, right?
No. So I've got this rock and I've got this $300 and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the money. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be in your property. We're not going to put it on your account. So we bagged it up. And when he got released, he got his poopy $300 back in his special rock.
So he plugs his ass with a rock to keep the money in because he thinks if other people go to find it, they'll just find the rock. Are they digging in his butt too?
I don't know.
So I had something similar in the sense that you're like, when you get the explanation, you're like, okay. We searched a gal and she had a piece of tissue sticking up, she had the whale tail showing. And so there's a piece of tissue sticking up from her butt crack. And we're like, hey, what's that? She's like, what? And we're like, what's this? And so my partner gloves up because it's his arrest. And he starts pulling on the tissue. And up comes a meth pipe wrapped in toilet paper. in between her butt cheeks. And he goes, so what's this? Expecting her to, I don't know what that, whatever. She goes, oh, that's my ass pipe. And what now? She goes, that's my ass pipe. And what else do we have to ask her at that point? Because she admitted to what it was, and that's what she calls it. And I really don't want to know why she has decided to store her meth pipe in her ass in toilet paper. I mean, I'm guessing the toilet paper is to keep it, poop free.
I found one in someone's crotch. It was a cottage cheese one. It was his crotch pipe. He had like cottage cheese, a yeast infection. It looked like.
Oh God!
And it was just all over his pipe and his balls, and it was like he threw cottage cheese in his underwear. And you could feel it on the search. I'm like, what the fuck is that? But it wouldn't shake loose.
The pipe,
like,
not
fuck.
The cheese.
Right, the pipe. And I'm like, fuck, I have to pull his drawers open and look down. And then like in the middle of the summertime, you get hit with a whiff in your face. Ooh.
Yep.
Dude, let me tell you what.
Such a glamorous job.
You puke.
So same agency. We had two people come in. It was a male and female. So we bring in one at a time. We bring the female in and the females take her back and they start dressing her in and they say that they found drugs in her jail purse. So I go back out and I grab the guy that's the custody that's still in the car. And I make a joke in passing. I'm like, oh, your girl had some drugs in her crotch. Hopefully you don't. And he didn't seem stunned by the comment. He's, what are you talking about? I'm like, nothing, man. I heard she had some drugs. I was making a joke. So I take this guy into the shower and tell him to take off his clothes, and he takes off his clothes and I have him do the coffin squat. And so he's naked and he spreads his butt cheeks, leans forward and he coughs. And I see a piece of plastic sticking out of his butthole. So I tell him, what's that? He's like, what are you talking about?
We call that a clue.
What's sticking out of your butt? And he turns around and I see him, he starts like trying to push it back in. So I tell him, no, stop right there. Whatever you got, you need to pull it out and hand it to me. So he's digging around and all of a sudden I hear this snap. And I'm like, what the hell? And he reaches out and he goes to hand me a piece of a blue rubber glove. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I saw clear plastic. Where the fuck did this come from? So I'm like, hey man, whatever you got in there, you need to bring it out, because if you don't, you're going to catch more charges. It's not worth it. Just whatever you got, just give it to me. And he started playing dumb, wouldn't do it. So I step in, I threw him in cuffs and I poked my head out of the shower and I told the arresting officer, I'm like, hey man, your custody's got something in him and you need to take him and get it out. So he ended up taking him to the hospital and they got 4.5 grams of heroin out of him.
Oh.
So when he comes back, I told him, I'm like, man, what are you doing? Why didn't you just, give it up? It wouldn't have been that big of a deal. And he tells me, well, where I'm from down in Orange County, you do that, and that's how you make money. You get arrested with it, you go to jail, you spin your dope, people put money on your books, and that's how you make money on the weekends.
Right. You know, I mean, like,
Huh.
it's the weirdest thing in the world when, and maybe I would love to know what other jobs have to deal with this. I mean, obviously the jobs that we talk to, right? We talk to people in police work, we talk to people in the military, we talk to people in the fire department, hospital setting. But do teachers ever have like random fucking conversations with their students or others? Like, does the when you look at the janitor and you're like, you go into his office and you know he's got some random tooth sitting on his desk, and what is that? Oh, that's my spare tooth. What? Like, no, I don't think that happened, but it happens to us. Like the ass pipe or the rubber. Like I will tell you straight up, I knew a parole agent who handed a pen. And I think I've mentioned this before on the show, but he handed a pen to his parolee that he was booking for a parole violation. And I was the transport unit. And I was like, I have nothing to do with this. I want it on the record that I was just driving you here. He handed a clicky pen to his parolee and he goes, I know the dope's in your ass. You dig it out or I will. And he sent the guy off to dig the dope out of his ass with a pen, and then comes back with a tiny cellophane teener of meth that had brown and red smears on it. And I didn't want, hey, he's like, you can book it. I'm good. I don't want to write a report. I was never here.
Violation. I'll transport
him. Nothing to do with me. This is not a new kid. The crazy part is that the DA failed or declined to charge him with bringing dope into a correctional facility.
Wow.
Yeah. You want to know why?
Well, you know, those are just bartering chips. Whatever else brings them to jail, anything that we find is just a bartering chip for them. That's it.
Well, the DA said, well, he didn't want to bring it to jail. You forced him to bring it to jail by arresting him while he had it in his ass.
What?
God. That was the DA's answer. Yeah. You know, can't win them all. But it wasn't my case. Like I said, I was not even there to this day. I shouldn't even tell that story. There's nothing to do with me.
Well, it's funny you talk about, you know, butt pipes. We had a guy one time that he had smuggled in trazodone, which evidently isn't something you can really do a whole lot with.
I mean, you can get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. So this guy, he had it with him the entire time he was in jail. He goes to sentencing, finds out he has 4 years, comes back. We ended up putting him in a holding cell and intake so we could get some prints for added charges. And I pull him out to print him and he's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, I don't want to die. I'm sorry. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I took a bunch of pills. Well, short of it is he had that trazodone on him. And after he got back from court, he ate them all and was overdosing. So I hop in, you know, I gun up and I hop in the back of the ambulance and I'm riding with him to the hospital and they're feeding him charcoal and he's, you know, puking out everywhere. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, this dude's going to die. And we get to the hospital and I tell the doctor in the ER or in the ED, I tell him, I'm like, hey, just, you know, he'd smuggled some drugs into jail and he overdosed on them. And I don't know if he has any more. So they 4-point this guy on the hospital bed and he walks over, he puts on like 3 sets of gloves, rolls them over and goes knuckles deep in this guy's butt to look for more. And so he digs around and he pulls his hand back out and he takes off all the gloves. He's like, no, he doesn't have anything. I'm like, what? Why did you put on so many gloves? He's like, well, you poke yourself on a broken crack pipe in someone's ass and you learn a lesson.
Yeah. I mean, I would think the lesson would be don't stick your fingers in somebody's ass unless you're a proctologist and they're paying you for it.
It's not yours. Don't touch it.
Right. I mean, okay. So in the job that I'm at now, I have the potential to have to search things if I volunteer for it. And I have said, I'm good. Like, unless you need me to do it, I'm quite fine never sticking my hands in somebody else's possessions ever again. Because anybody that volunteers for that gig has not searched other people's stuff long enough to come back with something you don't want to find.
Tweaker bags, tweaker purses.
Yeah.
They smell.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. So it's no thanks. I'm good. I don't need to ever stick my hands in anybody else's anything ever again.
Yeah.
I
Not the highlight.
no, that was not. I mean, I missed rolling code. Like, if you said, "Hey, do you want to drive a car with the lights and siren on?" I mean, yeah, sure, no problem. You want to get in a fight again? Sure, absolutely. You want to search this guy? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll pass. Oh, the shit you find. And not only that, but I think what people don't, we talk about smell a lot on this show. And when you search someone, you inevitably get close enough to smell them. When you search their possessions, you get close enough to smell their possessions. When you get in there, when you search their house, you smell their house. Like, smell is a very powerful sense, and one that if you've been a cop or a soldier or a fireman or a nurse long enough, you have probably longed for the ability to turn it off, or at least just be able to go to work with COVID and have your sense of smell disappear for a couple of months. Because I mean, tweakers, I said it, they smell like battery acid and cat piss. Like, it's a combination of those two wonderful smells. Then you add their hygiene into it, and then if they've shit themselves or pissed themselves or thrown up, or
oh my god,
homeless people are quite the bouquet of aromas, especially ones that enjoy being homeless and they enjoy being homeless and addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I'm not talking about like homeless people where they go to they have a tent, they go to the shelter, they take showers, they try to work, they're trying to better themselves. No, I'm talking about people who embrace the urban camper lifestyle and just stink.
Yeah. So, you ever had a dead body call and the person's alive and it just smells like death?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one. We opened the door knock. We're like, fuck, what? Hopefully this person's not dead. Door opens. And Pigpen from the fucking Peanuts or whatever?
Yeah. There was just a cloud around him.
Flying around him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lady opened the door. No shit. She had a halo of fucking gnats. And the moment they opened, a reverse vacuum right into your mouth. And I was like, hi. And about 130 whatever million gnats flew into the back of my throat, and I about fucking had it. And she was elderly, and we had to call adult protective services on her and looked inside of her house, and she was mental. And
you think
her fucking fridge was wide open, unplugged, and everything was rotted in it. And that's where the gnats came from.
Ooh. And
that's where the dead body smell came from. And then she proceeded to try to chase us out of her fucking apartment.
Oh.
All right. Crazy shit. Smells are gross. Ugh.
Yeah, smell and smells are the things that oftentimes will bring it back fast. Like, it's funny that a sound or a smell might bring a memory back faster than somebody saying something or seeing something, or somebody's like, hey, do you remember the time blah 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 blah, and you're like, nah, I don't remember that shit. And then you smell and you're like, oh fuck, remember that time we it's one of the reasons, they tell you, you guys have heard the tip, and if you haven't, listeners, this is a pro tip from real estate agents. If you're going to be having people see your house, and ahead of time people are coming in to see it, bake cookies or bake brownies. Because when they walk in your house to see your house, if they smell that, they get hit with that, and they're like, oh, this place smells like home. Yeah, no shit, because we were baking cookies. So, pro tip. Anyway, well, Nick, it's been a whole lot of fun, and I can only imagine that you've probably here. How about let's real quick before we get to your dedication. What is the grossest thing you've seen? Like, what story sticks out to you as like, I never want to have this happen to me ever again?
There's too many of them.
Yeah, I mean, it is jail. It is jail.
So I'm part of a corrections emergency response team. It's like jail SWAT. So one of our things is we do all the planned use of forces. You know, we've got Team Wendy bump helmets, we have APRs, we have all the cool tools. And so we do forced showers a lot on people. So, you know, it takes a lot of documentation, but if medical thinks there's a concern, they haven't, have a documented shower in, 30 days, we can kind of get the ball rolling to where we can, by any means necessary, get this person out and strap them into a chair and shower them.
Mm-hmm.
So we've extracted people covered in their own feces. We've extracted females covered in their own menstrual blood. I mean, there is no one.
Fuck.
I mean, I've seen a guy that to keep himself warm, he would smear feces on his legs, and his legs looked like tree trunks.
Smart,
And
like mud.
Yeah, he had cellulitis, and literally you could see it looked like he was sweating because of the stuff coming out of his pores. And yeah, so there is no one. There's a long list of them.
What would you rather, like, as far as the gross stuff goes? What's the one where you're like, I will deal with this, I'll deal with this, I'll deal with this, but if it's this, I'm out. Like, I don't even want, like, that's the worst one for you.
The women menstrual blood. Yeah, that's a whole nother smell. Like I can deal with the smell of shit and vomit and all that kind of stuff, but
you don't like the smell of a fish and a penny?
Irony smell.
Have you ever had someone shit in your hand?
No, I haven't.
No, never.
No.
I've never had somebody shit in my hand, Chuck. So
never.
I think
pay
that's
extra for that. Yeah, that's.
Am I the only one?
Yeah, that's a you thing.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, I had someone shit in my hand.
Oh. Well, I mean, were you holding out your hands?
No, like how? I was searching him for. This is an old man, and he didn't want to go to jail, and then I arrested him. And we're literally like right down the street from the station. Like I can look at my station. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, sir, you're going to jail for a felony. Like you're going to jail. I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can do. He's like, okay. I was like, I gotta take you outside and search him. Searching him, coming around, the spider crawl, and I go to search his crotch and whatever, and down the leg and back up the leg to his ass. And he's like, before I start searching, let me just paint this picture. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I was like, look, dude, we're right down the street from the station. Give us 10 minutes. You can be in a cell and you can go to the bathroom. I'll put you in a cell with the bathroom. You're good. And he's like, okay. And then I'm searching. He's like, I gotta go. And I'm like, hey, bud, you gotta wait. You're in a felony. I can't let you go back into the house. I can't let you go to the bathroom unless I search it. It's going to take longer for me to go and search those portions of your home. So you don't arm yourself with a weapon. And I can't do that. Once you're hooked, you're hooked. I just got, We're going to take you to jail. And he's like, okay. And I come up spider crawl and going up his back of his crotch. And I smell something as I'm coming up. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I get to his jeans in the back, and I just feel this lump hit my hand. And I'm like, oh, fuck that. And I have to finish the search because I can't, like, that's another way that people I could think of, I'm going to shit on them and they won't feel my shank or my fucking gun or whatever in my pants. And then they just stop, right? Well, I fucking can't do that. So I have to fucking continue my search. And I'm like, God damn it. And shit's just, you just smell it. And I'm like almost all the way done, but I got to finish and I got to go up the other leg. And I'm like, you motherfucker. And I'm like, did you just shit? And he's like, I told you I had to go. I was like, you shit in my fucking hand, bro.
I've had guys.
You're a grown ass man. You can't hold it.
I've had guys that have had shit in their pants when I search them. You can smell it when they come in. And
Yeah,
then you
I've
can feel
yeah.
it
Oh, yeah,
stuck
yeah,
to their
yeah.
leg and stuff like that. I've also had guys start pissing. They, yo, get me out of cuffs. I gotta pee. And I'm like, hey man, you gotta wait. Let me do my thing. And I've literally been in the middle patting them down, and multiple times guys just piss their pants.
I mean,
wow.
yeah. Okay, so this didn't happen to me, and I wasn't there when it happened, but I will say that this was a legendary story at my agency. We had a sergeant. Uh, he nicknamed himself Sergeant Asshole.
Fitting.
And he was old school, man. He was like very old school. And I remember one time they told me that he had responded, and don't ask me why the sergeant was searching the dude. They responded for a prowler up at a mini mall, and he was the first one on scene. And then backup officers get there. Sarge just got him up against the wall, patting him down. Right,
Bro, what are you doing?
And I mean, he was Sergeant Asshole. Like, he didn't give a shit. He was old school. Like, he was the kind of guy that he'll just beat you with his radio if you get rowdy, you know. And he did. He carried an old Midland. Like, we all had the like Kenwood HT. Like, we had good, nice radios, Motorola HT 1000s, whatever, you know, back then. No, he still carried like a Midland, like on a swivel. It was like 16 inches long. Yeah, dude. He just didn't give a shit. Carried his smokes in his sock. And yeah, he's patting this guy down. He reaches around and he goes, "What's this?" He goes like, "This nothing." He's like, "No, what's this? This is a weapon. What is this?" He's like, That's my dick." He's like, "No, what is this right here?" And he's grabbing it like, "What is this?" And it's in his crotch. Literally, he was grabbing the guy's dick. And he couldn't tell the difference between his dick and a weapon.
I've had that happen to me. I was like, "What is that?" "That's my dick." "Oh, that's cool. That's a big one." I don't know what you want me to say to that. "Cool, man. That's big."
Hey, congratulations.
And you make a joke. "Oh, that's a weapon for sure, bro."
For sure.
And they laugh and they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
my God,
man,
that's-
it's a sword. Anyway, well, on right, exactly. No, that was so you get to those legendaries. He was one of those guys where you know, we did his retirement video, and my buddy did an impression of him for his retirement video, and we were filming everybody doing their impressions. And his retirement video impression was he picks up the phone, he's like, "Oh, the officer did what? Oh, yes. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful, ma'am. Oh, you know what? Yes, absolutely. I will speak to him right now. There's no call for that. He's going to get in so much trouble. Thank you for telling me this. I will handle this immediately." And then he hangs up the phone and goes, "Hey, I told that bitch to go fuck herself."
Oh my God.
That's the kind of guy this sergeant was. And so he's still around. He's retired, obviously, but he was a good dude. He was one of those guys that, like, we had to beat somebody in the back of a patrol car because the guy was kicking out window. Like, he was violent. Like, everybody says, "Oh, you can't beat somebody in the back of a patrol car." No, you can. If the circumstances
to overcome his resistance and his force.
Exactly.
There you go.
And it just so happened that this beating had to take place because he was resisting in the back of a patrol car, and he was going to destroy the patrol car. And so the sergeant comes out and starts dragging him out of the back of the patrol car so he can't kick out windows and destroy an automobile. And he starts telling him, and the guy starts biting and kicking and spitting. And so he drives his elbow into the guy's side of his head to get him, you know, basically it was a primitive form of lateral head displacement to get this guy's attention. And when we were done, he puts him back in the car, gets him gift wrap for jail, looks at all the young coppers standing around like, "Holy shit, Sarge, you just took care of business." And he goes, "Anybody have a problem with that?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "Good. Take him to jail." That was it. Like, just like,
nice.
Yeah, old school guy. So anyway, Nick, I understand as always, we give our guests a chance to dedicate their episode to whomever they would like. And Chuck has told me that you have a dedication for your episode.
I do. It's a bit of a two-parter. So in 2014, Trooper Galen Couch, he passed away from cancer. He was a explosive guy for OSP, and he did my class when I was in the Reserve Academy. And I grew up with his daughter in Southern Oregon. And then last year, his daughter, Courtney Couch, who I grew up with, she was off duty, and there was a kid at the lake where she was paddleboarding that I guess was having some troubles, and she swam out to try to save him, and she ended up drowning.
Oh God. So both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
It's rough.
Yeah.
that's terrible. I mean, cancer sucks, but then to go out trying to save somebody because, oh man.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fucking terrible, man. We'll keep dedicating our episodes until we can stop, but I doubt that's coming anytime. As long as this job is dangerous, people like the Couches will be out there trying to save others. And so rest easy, brother and sister. We got it from here. Nick, thank you for coming on and sharing. You definitely had
Yes, thank you.
had some fun stuff that you didn't disappoint.
And I got
And anybody we'll have you back on anytime. And if you've got any other buddies that you want to recommend, send them our way. We've had lots of people
Absolutely.
that have been reaching out to us. And, when we first started the show, we just kind of populated it with our friends, because we knew so many cops and we knew so many veterans, we knew so many firefighters. And at some point we decided that this isn't just about our stories, it's about your stories. And so we had started trying to primarily recruit our guests from the talented pool of listeners that we have out there working the road every day, and keeping it real and crushing chaos and just doing the job, because otherwise it's just an echo chamber with us and all our friends talking about the glory days. So we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate all of our listeners that have either nominated people like our listener who nominated her father for when his response to 9/11. Right. Or Nick listening to another listener and going, well, I got some shit like that. Hold my beer, So we want to encourage that. And we love the fact that you guys are continuing to do that. And it also helps because then you can go back and tell your friends, all right, here you go, fuckers. Here's my story. And then they can say, oh, Nick's stories were weak. Hold my beer. I got some better ones. So we appreciate you coming on. Chuck, absolutely. I know you've got some news about our tank tops because we made an executive decision, did we not?
Yeah. We decided that it took a little bit longer for the tank tops than we had wanted. It's getting cold. Unfortunately, I live in Southern California. It's still hot out here, but I know that many of you in other parts of the state and the country, not state, but other parts of the country, it's getting cold. Right. And actual free America. It's not this communist state. Anyways, it's getting colder out there. So we switched and we're going to be releasing the shirts instead. And which is actually kind of good because they go up a little bit bigger in size. So that's good for us. But yeah, those are in the works right now, and we should have those live in the next couple weeks. And it'll be shirts, and then as soon as spring hits, tank tops. Bam! No waiting. They're already bought and paid for. They're coming your way in a more appropriate time. And then the hats are coming. Just got to finalize some stuff during the business week coming up, and I think you guys will like it, and it'll hit, and then there'll be a short order. And then as soon as, if they sell out or if they go really quick, a pre-order will immediately happen, or, you'll get a message. Hey, we got your order, or show interest. If they do go out, hey, I would like a hat. Hey, I would like a hat. We'll just put in another pre-order again or another order. And we'll get those back out to you guys, because I think you guys are really going to like them. And they're pretty cool. So wait till you see them. But I want to say thank you all for today for listening. If you like today's podcast, please go and follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you already follow us, please share our post and our info. You can go to a link in our bio on Instagram and Facebook to reach all of our socials, our media, and our website. Our podcast is on all major podcast streaming platforms, as well as on YouTube. If you want to support us, please go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. Again, that's www.warstoriesofficial.com. Grab some gear. Also, there's a surprise with the shirts when you order them, and something that can stick onto something. So, hint, hint.
That much of a hint.
some-
If you, for those of you, you don't have to be in the detective bureau to figure out what
No,
what we're
not
saying.
at all. If you want to be featured on a show, or you think you have a story, or you want to share your story, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com. Again, that's booking.warstories@gmail.com, and send me your story, and I can get you booked. We are looking for law enforcement, corrections officers, dispatchers, fire, medics, and veterans. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit, let them know about us and give them our booking email. And if you have any topics that you guys would like to have covered, or things like that, write in to the email.
We're still down to do those topical episodes, but we have so many guests we're trying to do that we don't really have time to kind of just make up topics. But if you have stuff that you want us to cover, we'll make time for it.
Exactly. So just write that in, and then if you've already been featured on the show before and you want to come back on, just shoot an email and refresh my memory. I often go through the emails all the time and try to see who's come on before and ask you guys back, but sometimes it gets difficult. So let us know, and thank you all for listening. Stay safe.
Yep. And until our next episode, come home with your shield or armor.